You know, the most important thing in relationships between people is knowing when to stay silent. Hearing that you might think, stay silent. But the truth is, the important thing is not what you should say. It is what you should not say. So many people never understand that. For example, the moment you tell your neighbors that your husband got promoted, they suddenly start acting distant. Or you casually complain about something, and before you know it, the story has spread everywhere. Have you ever gone through something like that? Today I want to share with you, based on my own life experiences, the things you should never reveal to other people if you want to avoid unnecessary trouble and quiet misfortune. Before we begin, if you care about protecting your peace, keeping your dignity, and becoming stronger when life tests you, please subscribe to the channel. Here, you'll gradually discover quiet lessons, old-fashioned wisdom, and simple truths that can help you live with more courage and calm in your later years. Thank you so much. Now let's get started. The first thing is money. This is something I truly want you to be careful about. Years ago, a man I knew named Walter told me a story I have never forgotten. After he received his retirement savings, he became a little too confident and ended up talking about it at his retirement party. He even mentioned the amount and said he would never have to worry about money again. After that, things slowly started changing around him. Some younger co-workers who used to admire him suddenly became distant. At the same time, a few people began coming to him asking for loans or financial favors. Before long, the friendships he had built with his old work buddies over decades became strained and uncomfortable. That is what money does sometimes. If people think you have a lot, they grow jealous. If they think you do not have enough, they quietly look down on you. Either way, the relationship changes. That is why, even when people ask me about money, I never give exact numbers. If someone asks how much I have saved for retirement, I simply smile and say, "Oh, I'm getting by well enough." And if they keep pushing, I gently change the subject by saying something like, "Prices sure have gotten expensive lately, haven't they?" Whether you have money or not is nobody else's business. The moment people learn too much about your finances, something shifts inside the relationship. And once it changes, it rarely goes back to the way it was before. So please remember this. Never reveal too much about money to other people. Some things are safer when they are quietly protected in your own heart. The second thing is angry words spoken in the heat of emotion. This may be the one you need to be most careful about. I remember something that happened to me years ago. I had a small misunderstanding with a younger manager at work. In the middle of the argument, she suddenly snapped at me and said, "You're extremely difficult to deal with. People say nobody even wants to be around you." Those words hit me right in the chest. That night, I could not even sleep. But the next day, after she had calmed down, she came to apologize. She admitted that she had been too angry and said things she did not truly mean. That was when I realized something important. Those harsh words had not come from her real heart. In that moment, she had simply chosen the words she knew would hurt me the most. Human beings are like that sometimes. When anger takes over, people say things they would never normally believe or even think. So when someone throws angry words at you, do not immediately accept them as the truth. Wait until that person calms down. And when you are the one who feels anger rising inside you, close your mouth for a while. Take a deep breath. Walk away for a moment. Go sit in your car. Step into another room. Give yourself time. If you sleep on it for one night, you may wake up wondering why you were even that angry in the first place. Never throw angry words carelessly. Sometimes a single moment of anger can destroy a relationship that took many years to build. Good relationships can only survive when we protect them carefully with our words. The third thing is forcing your sense of rightness onto other people and making comparisons. I truly believe this is something we should avoid. Years ago, I had a close friend named Linda. We talked about everything together. One day she told me in a very worried voice that she had not been feeling well lately, and after some medical tests, the doctors had found a serious illness. Before she even finished speaking, I blurted out, "Maybe you should have gone in for checkups sooner." The moment those words left my mouth, I could feel the expression on her face quietly change. She did not get angry, but I realized I had stepped across a line I never should have crossed. Maybe what I said was technically true, but what good did it do to say it at that moment? She was already blaming herself enough. When people are hurting, they are not looking for someone to lecture them with the correct answer. Most of the time, they simply want someone to understand their pain, and we should also be careful about comparing people. For example, imagine a friend telling you, "My son still hasn't been able to find a stable job." Then imagine responding with, "Well, my son's already been with the same company for 3 years now." How do you think that would make the other person feel, even if you did not mean any harm? Words like that can cut deeply. The person being compared feels small and inadequate, while the person making the comparison slowly loses trust without even realizing it. Comparison is poison in relationships. That is why these days, even when I feel tempted to say, "You should do this," or "You should have done that," I stop myself and simply say, "That must have been really hard." I just listen. Then, if the other person later asks, "What would you do if you were me?" only then do I gently say, "Well, maybe I would try something like this." And when advice is offered that way, people are much more willing to receive it with an open heart. The fourth thing is this: keep quiet about the dreams and goals you feel deeply passionate about. I remember a woman I once worked with named Carol. She had always dreamed of opening a small coffee shop someday, and she started sharing that dream with people around her. But instead of encouragement, people immediately started saying things like, "At your age, do you really think that's going to work? Isn't it a little too late for that now?" Little by little, all those voices chipped away at her confidence, and in the end, she never opened the shop at all. Such a heartbreaking waste, don't you think? You see, there are always people who feel uncomfortable when someone else tries to challenge themselves and start something new. And often, the people who criticize dreams the most are the ones who never had the courage to chase their own. Deep down, they want to convince themselves that staying safe and never trying was the right choice all along. But there is another dangerous thing about talking too much about your dreams. Sometimes simply speaking about them gives you a false sense of accomplishment. The moment you say, "I want to open a little cafe someday," a part of your heart already feels like you took the first step. But in reality, nothing has happened yet. You have not worked on it. You have not built it. Yet somehow, talking about it alone already makes you feel satisfied, and that feeling quietly steals the energy you needed to actually move forward. That is why whenever you begin something new, it is often better to stay quiet until things are truly taking shape. Work on it quietly. Prepare carefully. Then one day, after it has already become real, you can simply say, "Actually, I started doing something new." And when people see the result, instead of just hearing the dream, they are far more likely to say, "Wow, good for you," instead of trying to talk you out of it. If you're still watching this video and feel that what we're sharing is truly helpful, please leave us a comment. How old are you and where are you watching from? Do you have any experience with the topic we're discussing? Even just a few words from you mean a lot to us and are a great source of motivation. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button now and turn on notifications. Thank you so much. Now let's continue. And the fifth thing is this: try not to speak too openly about your successes or the happy things happening in your life. I once knew a woman named Diane, whose husband received a big promotion at work, along with a much higher salary. She was excited, of course, and casually shared the news with people around her. Everyone smiled and said congratulations. But after that, something slowly changed. People started saying things like, "Well, they're doing just fine over there." Little by little, she stopped getting invited out to lunch, and the atmosphere around her became strangely distant. I understand the desire to share happy news with someone. That feeling is completely natural. But these days, prices keep rising while many people's paychecks barely move at all. Most people are carrying stress they never talk about. So when they hear about someone else's happiness, even if it is not meant as bragging, a small voice inside them sometimes whispers, "Why does that person get to have all the good luck?" In simple terms, it becomes jealousy. And there are very few things that stir up jealousy faster than another person's success. And there is another thing people often do. They feel like they just have to tell somebody, so they confide only in one trusted friend. But honestly, that can be dangerous too. You may think, this person would never tell anyone, but that person also has someone they trust. Then they quietly say, "Don't tell anybody this, but..." And before long, your private happiness has traveled farther than you ever intended. That is why when something good happens in your life, sometimes it is better to hold it quietly in your own heart. Around other people, it is enough to simply say, "We're doing all right, thankfully." And if happiness comes your way, you do not always need to announce it to the world. Sometimes it is enough to quietly enjoy it for yourself. Maybe treat yourself to a nice cup of coffee and simply sit there feeling grateful in silence. The sixth thing is this: never get pulled into gossip. Years ago, I learned that lesson the hard way. I was once sitting in a backstage break room when a few people started talking about someone behind their back. I did not really say much myself. I only nodded along a little and gave a few polite responses. But before I knew it, the story somehow turned into, well, she was the one saying it. Even though I had not actually spread the rumor, I somehow ended up looking like the source of it all. And honestly, things could have turned very ugly. A misunderstanding like that can quietly damage relationships that took years, even decades, to build. That is the frightening thing about gossip. As it passes from one person to another, details get added, twisted, and exaggerated. And for some reason, bad rumors always spread faster than good news. People are often more interested in hearing something negative than something kind. That is why I really want you to be careful about this. The moment gossip starts, it is better to gently excuse yourself or simply say, "I don't really know enough about that." Then let the conversation stop with you. Do not carry it any farther. Over time, people begin to notice that you are someone who does not spread stories about others. They start thinking, that person can be trusted. And strangely enough, your relationships often become stronger because of it. So please remember this. Do not step into gossip. Staying out of it is far wiser than most people realize. And the seventh thing is this: be careful about constantly complaining, especially inside the same group or community you belong to. That can become very dangerous. For example, if you casually complain to a coworker by saying something like, "Don't you think our boss is a little unreasonable lately?" There is always a chance those words will eventually make their way back to that person. And once that happens, the situation can become far more uncomfortable than you ever expected. There is also another kind of person you need to watch out for. In America, people sometimes call them frenemies. They smile at you like a friend, but behind your back, they quietly enjoy pulling you down. If you pour all your frustrations out to someone like that, it can create a real mess before you even realize what happened. That is why whenever you absolutely need to vent, it is often safer to talk to someone completely outside that community. Someone with no connection to your workplace, your neighborhood, your church group, or your circle of friends. And honestly, sometimes you do not even need another person at all. Writing your feelings down on a piece of paper and tearing it up afterward can calm your heart more than you might think. Strange as it sounds, Simply letting those emotions leave your body for a moment can bring a surprising sense of relief. And the eighth thing is this: sometimes it is better not to talk too much about your private hobbies. Years ago, I used to quietly spend my weekends writing little poems in a journal. I never showed them to anyone. It was simply something I did for myself, a small, peaceful joy that belonged only to me. Then one day I casually mentioned it to someone I knew. They laughed and said, "What are you trying to do? Become a famous writer or something?" I do not think they meant any harm by it. But after hearing that one comment, something inside me changed. Suddenly, I started wondering whether my writing was actually good or embarrassingly bad. Before that moment, I had never even thought about it. But from then on, the quiet happiness I once felt slowly turned into self-consciousness. What used to be a relaxing escape became something I viewed through other people's eyes. That is the sad thing about hobbies sometimes. They are supposed to free your mind from daily stress and gently recharge your heart. They are not meant to become performances for other people's approval. A truly meaningful hobby is almost like a small treasure hidden deep inside your heart. Every time you pull it out and place it in front of others, a little of its magic quietly fades away. So, if there is something you love doing quietly for yourself, it is perfectly all right to keep it that way. Sometimes the happiest joys are the ones nobody else ever needs to fully understand. I have shared many things with you today, but in the end, the message I truly wanted to leave in your heart is very simple. Sometimes staying quiet is also an act of kindness. There are things that can only be protected by not saying them out loud. Your own heart, and the hearts of the people around you too. There is a conversation I still remember very clearly even now. Years ago, I once visited an older actress named Evelyn at an assisted living community in California. She had lost her husband after spending most of her life beside him, yet there was such a peaceful expression on her face that I could not stop thinking about it. So I asked her, after living together for so many years, what do you think was the secret to a happy marriage? She smiled gently and said, I learned 3 things in life. Never criticize too quickly. Say nothing when you are angry. And never compare the person you love to someone else. Then she let out a small breath and quietly added, those 3 things protected the love between my husband and me. And after he passed away, they also protected me from regret. Beautiful words. Don't you think people are always searching for complicated wisdom or deep philosophies about how to live peacefully? But honestly, maybe the secret is much simpler than that. Maybe living calmly simply begins with learning to hold back a few unnecessary words. So from now on, maybe try giving yourself a few more quiet moments. I think you may find that life slowly becomes gentler because of it. All right then, that is all for today. Let's keep taking life one peaceful day at a time together. If you found this video helpful and interesting, please don't hesitate to hit like and subscribe to the channel. If you share this video with someone who might benefit from it, that would mean a lot to us and be a huge source of encouragement. With your support, we'll continue creating meaningful content that brings practical information and real value to everyday life. Thank you sincerely for being with us. We truly look forward to seeing you in the next video.